Dedra Meero was the very first character card that we saw of AR-H7 Resurgence, the poster child, if you will, of the set. An awesome character that basically embodies the traditional red leader archetype of hand and deck control. She can strike on two fronts, yet she's seen pretty limited play. So today I want to talk Dedra, and I'm going to propose two potential pairings, both for our aspiring ISB agent. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, Destiny folks. So just real quick, today's video had been shot a couple weeks back, and in the time since, Dedra has actually popped her head up. She's made a top 8. You can check out last week's video for that list. We talk about the top 8. So anyway, just putting that in context that yes, since that point, she actually has popped her head up, which is really, really awesome. So anyway, enjoy the video. Nothing else, folks. Go Commando. Hey there, Destiny friends. Welcome back to Dice Commando and the Commando cast, and happy Destiny Friday. Thanks for checking in once again. I hope your week has been going well. So this morning, I want to talk Dedra Meero, I believe it is. She's a really cool card. Actually, as I mentioned, the first card we saw of the new set, and everybody saw Spy, and we're like, oh my gosh, it's going to be Detect is back. Obviously not, but she works really independently of that. And I really like this character. She's a very smashable, by the way, very, very smashable. At 12-15 with 12 health, 2 gun, 2 indirect, that's a pretty good die. 1 discard and a resource. That's a great die. But after you activate this character, reveal the top 2 cards of an opponent's deck and rearrange them in any order. And the top 2 cards of your deck, rearrange them in any order. Then choose a deck and discard its card. If you choose your deck, deal 1 damage to a character. So you're chucking one of your own cards to deal 1 damage to a character, and presumably you've built it such that it can chuck the right card. But it also gives you opponent knowledge, control. You can still get rid of their card if you want, but you do so at the cost of 1 damage. But maybe that's not what you care about at this point. That's really why I like her. I really feel she does a great job embodying the traditional Destiny red leader archetype. It's pretty much been there since the early FFG days, that if you had kind of like a 9, 12, 10, 13, maybe 14 point leader, but generally kind of in that lower range, they were really built to kind of do hand control, right? So traditionally, the red villains were able to control the hand pretty well, and then we did more milling. Well, I kind of got it right. We had Leia Yoda, but you understand where I'm going, right? That by and large, it was kind of a mill/hand control archetype. I think she does really well here, but she's also got some pretty decent damage sides. But you're gonna have to play her as a 2-wide, and I think that's one of the challenges that she's facing. Is traditionally, if you wanted like try and do mill or try and do some sort of like control-y deck, you need more health. 12 health isn't bad, but you need a boatload of health, right? Generally is by 3-wide, and then you're trying to bring in more colors generally. And I think that's another one of her challenges is, in order to really pair with her well, I think you're really looking at mono red and pairing with other leaders as well, especially with some of the removable build out there. So what I want to do today is I want to look at 2 different decks with her. I did try really hard to come up with like a red-yellow was kind of where I was thinking, and I just couldn't find anything in that range. There's potentially some blue characters she could pair with, but I just didn't like them as well. So both decks are with other red leaders, and I'll be very honest, they're very, very simple. So the first deck, and very, very similar, excuse me. First deck we're going to look at is actually the cookie cutter one from the set with Major Partagos, who's the ISB leader, right? So he has 2 indirect, 3 indirect to disrupt, a 2 discard, a big honking 2 discard, a resource, a blank. He's 11-14, also 12 health. That's a big boy. Leader Spy. After a card is discarded from hand or deck by a card effect for the first time each round, you may draw a card. Well, now that's interesting, especially when we pair with what Dedra can do. Power action, reveal the top card of a deck. Then you may turn a die to a side showing a value equal to the cost of the revealed card, right? So again, this is the cookie cutter kind of auto build ISB deck that was given to us in AR-H7. It's really, really cool. And then you can pair it, of course, with the plot here, and it pretty much works exactly the way you want it to work. right? It very, very cookie cutter, very, very great stuff there. All right, now the next pairing I have is actually using yet another red leader from a previous set this time, and this is Tarkin, Uncompromising Tactician. So he's 10-13 with 11 health, so a little less than Partagaz. Also, similarly, has a 2 indirect, 3 indirect, but one of them costs you an indirect yourself. 2 focus, discard resource in a blank, and his power action is reveal an opponent's hand. Again, that reveal works very well with the plot. Okay, you may discard a card from your hand to discard a card of your choice from that opponent's hand with the same cost. So you can see in Tarkin, we're skewing a little bit more towards the hand control, whereas Partagaz, you're going to be leaning a little bit towards more setting the, it's almost like the old Jin thing where you're kind of setting them up to not be as ideal, or at least you have the potential to set them up to not be as ideal or as efficient as they want to be, where you continue to deal damage, because again, his 2 indirect, 3 indirect compared with her 2 gun, 2 gun, 2 indirect. I mean, that's stuff. Again, 2 discard, never bad. So that's what we're going to be working with. So let's go ahead and go into deck number 1 across the screen right now. So we have Surveillance and Seizure with Dedra and Major Partagaz. I am playing the Perimeter Outpost on this particular one. You can see the breakdown there. We've got, I mean, it's mostly red, right? Mostly red. I am running the DH-17 blaster pistol because it's a gray, but it redeploys on reds, so it's basically a red card. The only difference being that it's not red, but it's really not relevant for this, okay? Do note in this that neutral cards are relevant in terms of what we want our deck to do in terms of chucking, okay? So Imperial Rule, I have 2 copies of that, 2 copies of Promotion, right? This is always one of my favorite cards. You play down, you get a card draw. So let's specifically look at what we're trying to do here, right? You have some of the big boy abilities with redeploy. The vast majority of these here have redeploy. So what we want to do is you drop down promo, which your 1 drop, you get a card draw off of it, and then you can overwrite it, right? Either then or then later. Standard issue blaster, maximum value on this thing. Uncompromising, and then 2 West Stars, because why the heck not? I don't know that we'll own the battlefield that much here, but West Stars just, it redeploys anyway. It has essentially the same damage side die as Dedra does. It's good. Right, ISP Central Office, this card's no joke. I know it's unique, but we're playing 2 of them because why wouldn't you? You're doing what you do anyway, and then you can get kind of the piddly die from the ISP agent, but hey, a die is a die. And then to the events, we have Casualties of War, 2 Command, right, works pretty well with this setup. We have Effective Intelligence, Intel Breach, Power of the Tribe, of course. We have Probe. Probe is really strong because, well, you can kind of figure out what you're going after. Small Battles 1, and then I have 2 copies of the Best Defense. All right, so now let's go over to the Tarkin deck, and you'll look at this and say, well, this is basically the same deck, and actually it's almost exactly the same deck, right? But instead, we're using Tarkin in this case. So that's about it. I do have Rex Road on here. I think that works a little better with Tarkin. At least that's where my initial guesses are, my initial preferences are, I should say, in terms of trying to do what we're doing with Tarkin. But by and large, again, you can see the deck across the screen. It's basically matched. We're trying to just kind of get those really efficient, really good big abilities out. Again, they redeploy. So we've got, I mean, that's pretty good stuff. All right, pretty good stuff. You have really good value. I do want to keep in mind, though, that, you know, it's not, you don't have anyone who's making, you don't have a dedicated resource maker. And aside from like little tricks like Small Battles 1, we don't have a great way to make a ton of resources. So we really are counting on those overwrites, right? The DH-17 blaster pistol, it's a 1, that's an overwrite, right? It's a good overwrite in the future, not too completely worthless. Promotion, great card for an overwrite. And when I say DH-17 is completely worthless, it's not at all, because it's got a good die. So you can absolutely do things with it. Remember, Tarkin's 2 focus is easily his strongest side, right? In this particular case, because you've got a lot of other big dice out there. And I think it's very interesting to see who they'll go for first in this deck. In the other deck, the first deck, I think they go for Dedra first. In this deck, I think they might go for Tarkin first, because you don't want him to be fully loaded with a bunch of 2 focus sides. So I think that's kind of the play there. Plus, he's got the built-in removal. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how both of these decks play out overall, especially as how they play with each other. So anyway, that's my take on Dedra. I'd love to know if anyone else has been working with her. I think it's kind of weird that we haven't seen a lot with her. Again, I kind of talked about some of the challenges she faces at her price point and kind of being a mono deck, but a lot of her strengths are in being mono deck because what we have. So Again, I'd love to hear your thoughts, what you're thinking. And if nothing else, folks, thanks for being here. Thanks for continuing to be here and being you. And if nothing else, go Commando.